before in development or other work environments, we keep the organization really flat. So there is both like vulnerability and kindness as well as an expectation. So everyone, no matter how much experience they have or how long they've been at the company, is genuinely expected to lead as much as they follow, to learn as much as they teach. And that's one of the coolest things that I every day reminds me to try to like keep that alive because we are all active stewards of the environment that allows it to be so kind and inclusive and helpful. We're also real silly. I mean, we all I think like each other and like to go get lunch and like go do something after work, have a picnic. Um, that makes it sound really cheesy and fake, but it isn't. We do work pretty hard to try to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and has their voice heard at the table.
Erin does a better job than I can.
Erin does do a good job.
But yeah, that's something that Mackenzie and Olivia and I thought a lot about when we started the company, was that it was going to be really hard anyway to create a culture of like a really, strong hierarchy of anything, because Mackenzie and I and Olivia are all like 22, 23 years old. So it made more sense to make a flat structure, knowing that we would all have knowledge to share with each other. And there was virtually not going to be anyone in the room that 100% of the time knew better than anyone else, especially us. So trying to create a culture where there's a lot of knowledge sharing across and not just up and down was really important.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
You go first.
I was just gonna ask, this, like, I can totally tell how close you guys are just from this small little meeting. And it makes me like, I think you guys are all kind of like, you're physically in the same space together, right? Like I feel like it kind of helps get to know each other and invest in each other when you're like physically in the same space too.
Yeah, we did grow our entire team over COVID, which is like something that was really weird, at least in theory. Like Natalie and I, when COVID started, we basically stopped hiring, and then we started again a couple months later. And at the time we had one other engineer besides the two of us. So we were basically growing over COVID from 3 to 15, 16, 17, whatever. And I remember when we started, it was like, that's like, how are we going to do that? And how are we going to like grow a team that wants to be around each other, wants to care about the product, wants to be here? And I think it really was putting in work to like getting to know the team and not like slacking on that. Like, for example, like one thing that is kind of like a behind the scenes in our culture is we commit to doing like an hour a week with every single person on our team. So Natalie does a one-on-one with every person on our team, which is huge. Like, I know some of my friends that work at larger companies are like, I talk to my manager or whatever it is, like once every 2 months. And it's like Natalie talks to every person every single week. So it created like a culture where like we had those conversations, even though we were virtual. And so I think when we came in person, it was more, and we are still work from home in some ways, but in certain, we have different people who are home and people who are here, but it's definitely felt like a privilege to like be with everyone. Whereas when we were home, it was the reality, and we all like leaned into it because we had to, but now it feels like really lucky that we get to be in person. Yeah.
But I also think that the two of you did a really good job of hiring.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Hi.
Because you chose people that kind of helped to perpetuate that sort of culture that we were looking for. So kudos.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Matt was our first. Well, he wasn't our first engineer. I see our first like legit non Natalie and I engineer sitting across from me right now. Her name's Allison. Allison, wave. Where are you on this screen? Okay, she's waving. But definitely when we hired Matt, like what is interesting about Matt is Matt has 20 years of experience. And as you probably got from the theme of the presentation, Natalie and I had zero. We had zero, and so did the other engineer that we hired. So we were all coming from OSU. We all had the same experience. And then we're hiring this person who's like, yeah, I worked at Verizon for 19 years. And it was a crazy experience to get someone like that on board with what we were doing. And so Matt was a huge milestone for Tandem over COVID, and it wasn't COVID as well. And then we met Matt and we realized he's like 10 feet taller than we thought. And he's like, I don't know, it was just a great experience. We were so happy when we met. And now we get to see him every couple days during the week.
It sounds like we discount Allison as a hire, but we went to college with her, so it seemed a little less daunting to convince her to join us.
Actually did not have to convince me. I asked them if I could work for them twice, so it's okay.
So now that you're, I think somebody else had a question before I asked mine.
Claire.
So I'm Claire. I'm a current tech elevator student. We're about halfway through the craziness that is coding bootcamp. This has been really informational, and it's been amazing to see you guys go through the thick of it, be open about not knowing what you're doing, but find a way and find solutions that work for you. Earlier, you guys were answering a question regarding how has the Great Resignation kind of affected, I guess, your users. And you mentioned that you were also going into like pet care, and that really excites me. So I was wondering if you guys could elaborate on like what that looks like.
Yeah. So this is something really cool that I don't even think we realized we were doing when we were building our product, which is that marketplaces can be very similar in the way that they're structured, where there's one side that has a need and then there's another side that can give the need. And we've definitely leaned into childcare. And so we have a lot of like things built into our software that particularly support childcare. But in our long-term Tandem dream and goals and vision, we want to lean into the fact that like our platform is built to support other gig economies. And one of the ones that we've seen on our platform like pop off every time we've put out a job is pet care. Like we put out pet care jobs and they get filled so quickly. Obviously, like there's also a huge need there, and the pet care industry looks a little bit different than childcare. It might not be that full-time 9 to 5. It might be stopping by midday or stopping by after work or something. So we decided to like lean into that earlier than we even expected. And so we just launched a very MVP, that stands for like minimal viable product. So it kind of just like barely can survive out there. Pet care marketplace. And again, the cool thing about it is, like I said, our product supports all the different versions of gig economies. So this is also free. So you can come on and say, I need a pet sitter for no cost besides what you're going to pay the person who's walking your dog or whatever, watching your cat. And then as a pet sitter, we're not going to take a dime out of your pocket. You get all your earnings. They're just going to go onto your Tandem debit card, which I don't even think I explained our revenue model. I just kind of like encapsulated it, but oh, maybe I did. I don't remember. So all the providers get debit cards, and that's how they get their earnings. So that definitely will be exciting as we see over the next couple months, like how people use that product. But if you have a pet, you should absolutely make a request, or if you want to walk a pet, you should come on as a provider. Or we can just tell you how.
We have 2 dogs and 3 cats, so I definitely see that being something in our future.
Well, I will tell you, if you put something out there on our platform, you will definitely get it filled very quickly, because our providers are super, super excited about like this style of jobs.
Hey, Lisa, I can see a business out there for you. If you're listening, I don't know if she's on.
I am. Just a little under the weather, folks. Sorry. No, this is amazing. I had used a program. It was like a care.com, which is like the old school version of this. I'm very excited to see kind of where this takes off, and I can see this really benefiting a lot of different families, and I'm really kind of curious to see. This has been great. I don't often get to see the back end of really anything. Actually, I get to see the people side of things. So it's been really cool to watch this come together on the front end and the back end, and hear your story. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I did have a question. As you grow, because that question will be asked from VCs to everybody else, you're going to have some potential challenges because you'll have kind of worked together at started off as friends, and everybody is kind of meshed, and then there'll be more people coming in. So you're having some conversations as to how that growth would mean to you as you hire more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things we talk about a lot is the fact that when Mackenzie and I first started growing the team, we kind of thought like, you're a nice person and I'm a nice person. How bad could our culture really be? We both have good intentions. And I think we learned pretty quickly that there's a strategy and there's a science to defining what you want and going into interviewing and looking for the kind of people that you want. And we did not make all of our hires all at the same time. We've made a lot of them over the span of a full year. So there was a lot of like forming of relationships that happened and then disruption of those as we like brought new people on. So we're very comfortable with the concept of kind of like bringing new people on and have kind of seen with each individual person the ability for like our team to kind of like accept and bring them in. I think our newest engineers on this call are probably Allison B, who's in the Gorilla costume, and Jeff, who has also got a lava lamp in his background. And my hope is both of them feel like they're very important members of the team, even though they may not have been around quite as long as Matt, who was talking earlier. And I think that's been something that we have really worked towards. And one of the things that Mackenzie talked about is we do weekly one-on-ones. And for me, as the person who does them, a big part of that when someone's joining is just kind of continually checking in and making sure that they feel like they're joining the team and that everyone's there to support them. And so we do kind of like what I do, but we do half-hour one-on-ones with every member of the team. So on the first day that you join, and every day after that until you run out of Tandem team members, every morning you meet with a new team member for 30 minutes. And that's a goal for us. It gets really long now that our team is a lot bigger than it used to be. But it's actually probably more important now than it was when everyone was closer together. So now it's a good way for people to mesh without, that's kind of outside of work. If that makes sense.
Have you had any attrition so far?
A little bit.
So you probably have defined, certain behaviors, work behaviors, if you will, that does not go with the culture that you mentioned. And do you all discuss that during the interview? I mean, because as a startup, the biggest issue, I mean, you're probably not going to face it right now, but you will face at some point is constant people coming in and going out, depending on the, you're so desperate to get warm bodies across sometimes, you just kind of like say yes, right? And then you realize, that was a costly endeavor, you invested so much into it. So those things are going to come. I hope the team, starts developing a game plan on how to kind of slow it down to make it fast. You know what I mean?
We do spend a really large portion of our interview time on behavioral, and a lot less significant amount of time on technical. Definitely evaluate technical, but I think that's probably at least 2/3 of our interview process is behavioral, which has been really helpful. We also I think the other thing is we do try very much to keep tabs on like how people are feeling about their role and their team, with the hopes that I think a lot of the times when you have like large turnover, it does happen, and it happens a lot at startups especially, but some of that turnover can be caught by just being an active listener and to what people like want the team to be, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's something that's really important to Mackenzie and I, that these are really valuable members of our team, and that if we can help them achieve the goals that they want at Tandem, then we would like to do so.
Attrition is a good thing. Don't forget that. You know, because I mean, the thing that makes startup is agility, right? I mean, compared to where like Dhruva works or Robin works, you know, agility is a cultural agility is impossible in large corporations. So attrition is a good thing. I did want to point out one thing. I mean, just looking at the screen, something that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was once asked, and the notorious RPG said, the question was, you know, how many women should there be in the Supreme Court? And her answer was 9. So as I see it here at Tandem, that is kudos to you. I think you're getting into your leadership team 9. So that's a great thing. And you should be commended on that, you know, to keep that focus.
Thank you.
Any
That
other
did not
questions?
go unnoticed by me either.
Yes,
So
that's
thank
what
you, ladies, for power blazing through.
Yep. Any other questions?
One question. So I know that you guys are hiring. Are you guys hiring like tech elevator grads, or do you guys prefer, I don't know what like skill level you prefer?
We're kind of on a passive hiring hunt right now, which means we're just kind of looking for like the best fit for our team. So we're pretty much open to talking to anyone right now. We have a couple tech elevator grads on our team already, which is awesome. Aaron, who spoke earlier, is a tech elevator grad, and Evan, who I think is in here somewhere.
I'm here. I just have my camera off because my dogs are fighting in the background.
But yes, we have a few tech elevator grads already on the team, which is really awesome. And that's actually how we know Vinny, and how we ended up here. Big fan of the people tech elevator. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, folks. Reach out to Nat at jointandem.com if that's something that you're interested. If you liked the presentation this evening and you don't already work there, we loved having you here at Zettabytes. Looking forward to collaborating more with Tandem in the future. Remember, follow us.